All right, I want everyone to take a look at this warm-up. It says find and correct the error. I don't know if you remember me telling you before, but the best way I think to do these problems is just do the problem yourself. And each time you do another step, you should compare it to the student's work so you can try to find their error. So this is a PEMDAS problem, right? So you need to be thinking about what would PEMDAS tell us to do first, and then go ahead and do it. And then what would it tell us to do next? Go ahead and do it. So do the problem yourself and see if you can find where the student went wrong. All right, so this is a PEMDAS problem, right? So there's no parentheses, so we should have done exponents first, right? So let's not touch anything else. Let's just do 3 squared. That means 3 times 3, so it's 9. That was our only exponent. So next comes multiplication and division, and we do it from left to right. Remember, we don't necessarily do multiplication first. We do whatever comes first, but it does just so happen that the multiplication comes before the division, so we'll go ahead and do negative 3 times 5 to get negative 15. Now, so far, what I wrote, still it matches the student's work right now, right? But we should continue doing the multiplication and division. Like, we're not done with this yet. We got to do the division too before we go on to addition, subtraction. But that's not what the student did. What did they do? Did anybody realize what they did? Yeah, they did. They added these together instead of doing the division, because see how they have negative 24? We're not going to have negative 24 anywhere in our work because we shouldn't be adding yet. We should be doing division right now. Negative 9 divided by 4. If you do that, you're going to get a decimal. You can write the decimal or you can leave it as a fraction, whichever you want. It really doesn't matter, but like, you need a decimal or a fraction right here. Then, now that we're done with that, we can go through and do addition or subtraction from left to right. So really, you could just go plug that all in your calculator at this point, because it's just 3 things that you're adding together. Negative 15 plus negative 9/4, or you can do negative 15 plus that negative 2.25 plus 9. And if you leave it as a fraction, it would be negative 33/4, or if you had yours as a decimal, negative 8.25. How many of you got the correct answer? Okay. And then how many of you were able to figure out that's what the student did wrong, that they added before division? Good. Okay. Any questions on that at all? All right, we're going to learn something brand new today, so make sure you're paying really good attention and taking good notes. I'm going to ask you this probably every day in this whole chapter. What do we need to know to write the equation of a line? Anna, give me one thing. Slope. Perfect. What else do we need to know, Elise? The y-intercept. Good. If we know those 2 things, somebody raise your hand and tell me what's the formula that we then can use to write the equation of the line. Kale? Perfect. Okay. So, quick review problem. This is just like yesterday's lesson. We're not getting into anything new yet. Write the equation of the line shown. So we know our answer will look like this, but we're going to have to find the slope and the y-intercept first. So you take a minute and do that. Find your slope, find your y-intercept, write the equation form here. So we got to count our rise over run first, down 2, and right 10 if you count it. So rise over run, or my slope, is negative 2 over 10, but both those can be divided by 2, negative 1 over 5. Where does it cross? Here's my y-axis. Where does it cross the y-axis at? Ryan? Good. Positive 2 is my b. So I'm ready to write my equation. I'm going to fill in for m is the slope. X plus 2 is my y-intercept. All right, let's look at a question that's asked a little bit differently. Graph the set of points from the table. Do you think they represent a linear function? So guys, a linear function is a line. See how it has the word line in that word? Let's go back to this one for a second. So don't do anything yet, okay? We got to make sure we're paying attention. This one already had a line drawn for us. We knew that one was a line, so we could write the equation using y equals mx plus b, because that's how you write the equation of a line, right? This time it's giving us 3 points, and we don't know if they make a line or not. Like, just look up here for a second. If I graphed points like that, does it look like those make a line together? No, that makes like a curve, not a line, right? There's another type of graph that looks like that. You'll learn about that next year, okay? But we want to know, if we graph these points, do they lie on a line together? And we have to tell why or why not. So let's go to the origin. Don't forget x comes first in order pair. Guys, some of you lately have been confusing plotting points with slope. Remember, x comes first in an order pair, so like we would go to the right 1 and down 4 if we needed to plot the point 1, negative 4. Go ahead and do that with me. 2, negative 2, go back to the origin, 0, 0. We would go right 2 and down 2. So that, whoops, I only went right 1. Right 2 and down 2 would put us right here. And then 3, 0 means go back to the origin again. We go right 3. We don't go up or down at all. So it kind of looks like those points might make the shape of a line together. But like, we can't just say it looks like a line. When it says why or why not, we have to provide some sort of like mathematical reason. So any thoughts about whether those points lie on a line and maybe how we would know, Madeline? Beautiful. So guys, the rise over run from here to here is up 2 and right 1. And it's also up 2 and right 1 from here to here. So Madeline is exactly right. We would say, yes, the points lie in a line together because the slope is constant or the same from one point to the next. Remember when we studied story problems yesterday, how we said the amount that it's constantly increasing by, that's what slope means. Like, if I want to find more points on the line, I'd have to keep going up 2 and right 1, up 2 and right 1. Like, if I went up 3 and right 1, that would break the line, right? It's got to stay the same slope the whole time. So now, because it does make a line, we know because the slope is 2, we're going to go ahead and write the equation. So in y equals mx plus b, we already know m is 2 over 1. We can just put 2 because 2 divided by 1 is 2. Now, if we actually drew the line in there, I'm not going to do it, but where would the line cross the y-axis, do you think? Because none of these points is on the y-axis. Would we be able to figure out where it crosses the y-axis? Ranveer? Yeah, how did you know that this point would be the y-intercept? Yeah, so Ranveer is thinking about still keeping the slope the same, so he just maybe counted backwards, which would mean instead of up 2 and right 1, we could go down 2 and left 1. So does everybody understand that makes sense? Because that point would be on the line still. So we have a way we could figure out by counting that the y-intercept would be -6. Any questions on that so far? Okay, what's going to get trickier now is that in the next one, we're not going to be able to just count backwards to find the y-intercept like that. The y-intercept is going to be like a question mark this time, okay? So I want you to put your pencils down, please, and I want you to just look up here and listen right now. So first of all, what scale is this graph going by? Because like here's 0, here's 2. Like, what does each line represent? What is the scale? Anna? Yeah, 0.5, right? Because if this is 0 and this is 2, halfway would be 1. Halfway between there would be 0.5, okay? So where does this look like it crosses the y-axis at? We don't have a physical point there, right? We have a physical point here and here, but where does it look like it might cross the y-axis at? Now that you know the scale is going by 0.5s, I'll give you a minute to look down at your paper or look up here. Where does it look like it's crossing the y-axis? What would you say, Anna? -1 point. Yeah, I think that's a great guess because here's -0.5, -1, -1.5. Like it's in between -1.5 and -2. So to me, -1.6 sounds like a good guess, but what if it's -1.7? Or what if it's negative 1.63? Like, we just don't know is the problem, right? We can't just guess it. We're going to have to use a mathematical way to actually calculate it, okay? So again, the last one was easier because since this was a nice integer, just -6, we've already established this is definitely not an integer because it's between -1.5 and -2, right? Maybe around -1.6, but we don't know, okay? We're going to learn how to find out in a minute here. So tell me again, I'm going to keep asking you over and over. What do we need to know to write the equation of a line, Anna? Good. Slope and y-intercept. So step one, we got to find the slope. So guys, listen, I would not try to count rise over run because remember how it's not going by ones? You would have to count like a half, 1 and a half, 2 and a half. You could if you want, okay? But what I would do is just write out the ordered pairs instead. So somebody raise your hand once you can tell me what the ordered pair would be for that point. Like go to the start from the origin, right? We want to count out the X and the Y. Rambier? Yeah, because again, don't forget when you do an ordered pair, X comes first. We're going right 4 and then up a half 1. So 4, 1. Everybody label that on their paper, okay? What about this other ordered pair? What would the coordinates of it be? Count it out. Don't wait for a classmate. We got to do it ourselves. What would the ordered pair for that point be? I'm going to wait till I see a few hands in the air, guys. We have to know how to count ordered pairs. Anthony? Yeah, well, your numbers are right, but we just want to write it like this because it's a point. So start at the origin, you're to the left 2, right? X comes first in an order pair, then down 1, 2, 3. So -2, -3 we would have. Again, guys, be careful that you don't confuse with slope. Like we've been so used to counting rise over run lately, but when you're doing ordered pairs, we go left or right first because X comes first, right? So now that we have our ordered pairs, we're going to go ahead and use the formula. Remember, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We'll just go ahead and call this x and y we'll just call that our first point, and we'll call this one our second point, okay? So that means we're going to do 1 minus -3 over 4 minus -2. 1 minus -3 is 4. That's like 1 plus 3. 4 minus -2 is like 4 plus 2. That's 6. What does that simplify to, Elise? Good. Okay, now you're really going to want to pay attention on this part because we have to learn something new here. We don't know the y-intercept right now, right? Like step 1, we got to find the slope. Step 2, we got to find the y-intercept. But we can't just guess like we already talked about. It looks like -1.6, but we can't just guess. So we're going to learn something new right now. I want everybody to write down the equation, the formula y equals mx plus b. But let's think about how we already know m. What did we find out that the slope was? 2 over 3. Yep. So guys, here's what we're going to do. See how on our line, we only know 2 points for sure. Like there's lots of other points, but we don't know any of them. Like these are the only 2 that are given to us. You're going to pick one of them. It doesn't really matter which one. So I'm just going to use this one. What we're going to do is we're going to take the X and Y from this pair and fill it in here and here. So right here, we would have to make sure we put -3 because -3 is the y in that point, okay? And then the x in that point is -2. And then we're just going to write plus b. Now, I want you to stop and put your pencils down for a minute, okay? If I wanted to use this point instead, I could. I would put 1 right here, and I would put 4 right here. I know that seems weird that it doesn't matter which point we pick, but you will actually get the same answer no matter which one you pick, okay? Again, I hope we're taking good notes here because some of us look like we're not fully paying attention. So did everybody get that step written on their paper where we filled everything in? Do you see how B is the only unknown in this now? Like it's the only variable. So we're going to solve it for B. So what we're going to do is this means multiplication. Since we know both of those numbers, let's multiply them. You tell me what you get for 2/3 times -2. Anna? Yeah, it's a repeating decimal. We should math bracket if we got a decimal. We still have the plus B there. So if we're trying to find B, right, that's the whole goal, to find the y-intercept. To get B alone, we would just have to add 4/3, right? Because -4/3 plus 4/3 would be 0. We have to do it on both sides. So -3 plus 4/3. Somebody tell me once they have that. I'm going to start to call on random people at this point, okay? Whether your hand's up or not. Ryan G? Yes. Okay, so remember, that's not our answer. That's just the y-intercept. Remember, the question said write the equation for the line, but we're ready to do that now because earlier we found the slope was 2/3, right? So we know that goes where m is in our formula. But now we also know the y-intercept. So we can put -5/3 there. Guys, I want you to go and punch this in your calculator like -5 divided by 3 and tell me what it looks like. What did you see, Kale? -1.6 repeating, right? So remember back in the beginning when I asked you guys to guess where it crossed the y-axis and you guessed -1.6? So you were close, but it's -1.6 repeating. So you can't possibly even guess that, right? That's literally impossible. So we have to know how to do this algebra here to help us find the exact value of B, okay? But again, you guys made a nice guess there, but we have to know these steps, okay? So listen, this slide on your notes kind of summarizes everything we just did because it's a process and it's the same steps every time. If we have to write the equation of a line, the first thing we're always going to have to do is find the slope. So there's a couple ways you can do that. Sometimes it's rise over run if you have a picture, right? Or sometimes we have to do the formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then, guys, do you remember yesterday we had problems like this one where we already knew the y-intercept? Or if there was no picture, do you remember how it like gave us the point, for example, 0, 5? Do you remember how when x was 0, we knew that that point would be on the y-axis, right? Like that was the y-intercept. So in today's lesson, in every problem we look at, we're not going to know the y-intercept this time. So that's why step 2 is to find the y-intercept. And how you do that is like we just did on the last slide. You're going to take this formula, you're going to fill in your slope that you found up here, you're going to fill in the coordinates of a point for x and y, and then you're just going to solve it for b, okay? So it's a 3, and then you'll be ready to write your equation because you found the slope on this step and you found b on this step. So it's a 3-step process and it's going to be the same 3 steps every time. So we're going to start practicing it now so that you can get the hang of it, okay? All right, write the equation of the line that passes through the point -1, 3 and has a slope of -4. So I'm going to ask you again 500 times a lesson. What do we need to know to write the equation of a line again? Slope and what else? Do we know the slope? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Do we know the slope right now? We do. It straight up tells us. So this step's done already, right? We already know the slope. Do we know the y-intercept? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So if you're not sure, guys, let's think about the only point we know. -1, 3 would be to the left 1 and up 3. That point that I just plotted, is it on the y-axis? No. So we do not know the y-intercept, okay? So step 2 is going to be a little bit harder here. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to write out our formula, y equals mx plus b. What can I fill in right here? Olivia? Yeah, because that's my slope. M stands for slope. I'm going to fill in -4. It told us the slope was -4. And then we have an X and Y pair that we can fill in, right? X comes first in an order pair, then Y. So what am I going to put right here, do we think? Elise? Right, because you have to make sure you put Y right there, right? And then what am I going to put in place of X, Anna? The -1, right? You're just taking the X and Y and filling them in so that B is the only thing missing, because now we can solve it to find B. What should I do first here if I want to solve this to find B? Ranveer? -4 times -1. Yep. And so then that's going to give me a +4. And then I just have to get B alone. So I just want to take away 4. So what will B equal? Good, -1. So guys, some people accidentally make the mistake of thinking that's the answer though. That's not the answer. What did we just find? Yeah, that's just the y-intercept. We were supposed to write the whole equation. So step 3, we're ready to write the equation now. What will the equation of my line be? Madeline? Perfect, because I found right here that the slope was -4 and I found the y-intercept was -1, so I just fill those things in for M and B now. So that's my answer. Questions on that one? We're going to do another one that's the same thing so you get the hang of it, okay? Tell me again, yell it out. What do I need to know to write the equation of a line? Good, slope and y-intercept. Do I know the slope? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Look, go ahead and read the question to yourself. Do I know the slope in the do I know the slope is all I want to know right now. Thumbs up or thumbs down? I do. It straight up says the slope is 3/2. So we can know that M is 3/2. Do I know the y-intercept? Give me thumbs up or thumbs down. So in other words, is this point on the y-axis? No, because look, -8 would be way over here and then down 3. The y-axis is way over here. That point's not on the y-axis. So I don't know the y-intercept, okay? So what are we going to do? We're going to take our formula. We're going to fill in what we do know. Let's always start by filling in M, because step 1, we found M over here. Well, it told us, but then we also have an XY pair given to us. So, Kale, what number am I going to put right here? Perfect. That's the Y coordinate in my point. Jay, what number am I going to put right here? Yep, the X in my point is -8. So now our only thing missing is B. So we can solve it for B. You see if you know how to solve it for B now, because we did the last one together. Try to do the math yourself this time. See if you have B correct right now. Three times -8 should have been -12. All right, so all we were supposed to do is find B right now. So we should have multiplied here because we can simplify. 3/2 times -8 should have given you -12. And then we can add 12 to get b alone, right? Because negative 12 plus 12 is 0. Negative 3 plus 12 is 9. How many of you got 9 for your, what did we just find? Yeah, but what does b stand for? The y-intercept, right? So that's not our answer. There's a third step because the question said write the equation, right? So we got to tell what the equation is now. Like we got to go back to y equals mx plus b. What's my final answer going to look like? Kale. Perfect. Questions on how I got that? Because we knew m was 3 over 2. We had that in the beginning, and then we just found b, so all we do is fill those things in, right? Questions on that? Okay. Write an equation of the line that passes through these 2 points. Tell me again, what do I have to know to write the equation of a line? What do I have to know? Slope and y-intercept. Do I know the slope? Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. Thumbs up or thumbs down. I want to see everybody vote. We don't know the slope this time. So how are we going to find the slope? Anna? Perfect. Perfect. All right, so let's label our points here. X, Y, we can call this point 1. X, Y, we can call this point 2. So we're going to have negative 1. That is what that says, right? I wrote over top of it a little bit. Okay, negative 1 minus 5 over 2 minus negative 2. That's negative 6 over 4. So negative 3 halves. Everybody good with that? All right, do we know the y-intercept? Like, is either one of these points on the y-axis? Give me a thumbs up if we know the y-intercept, thumbs down if we don't. So guys, if you don't know the answer to that question, make a picture. Negative 2, 5 would be somewhere over here. 2, negative 1 is somewhere down here. No, we don't know the y-intercept. It's right there. That's not one of the points that it gives us. So again, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our formula, y equals mx plus b. First thing we're always going to do is fill in the slope that we just found up here. Okay. Now, again, I want you to think about this, guys. This time, we have, make sure you're looking up here, please, because this is a little harder than this last one. On this one, we only knew 1 point on the line. If we know 2 points, or even if we knew 50 points on the line, it doesn't matter which one we pick when we go to fill in an X and a Y, just as long as they're from the same pair, okay? So if I'm going to use this point, I'm going to have to make sure I put 5 for y and negative 2 for x. If I wanted to use this point instead, then I would have to put negative 1 for y and I'd have to put 2 for x. I'll show you that it doesn't matter. You're going to get the same thing either way, okay? So let's see, this one, negative 3 halves times negative 2. Somebody tell me when they have that. Kale? Good. And then we would just have to take away 3, right? So we're going to get 2 for B. So what if we had used the other point? Negative 3 halves times 2 would give us negative 3. But then we would have to add 3 to both sides to finish that. And guess what? Negative 1 plus 3 is 2. So see, it doesn't matter which point you pick as long as you use the same point. Like you don't want to take the X from this point and the Y from that point. Things come in pairs, right? So you have to take one pair and fill it in. Now we're ready to write the equation y equals my slope. So negative 3 over 2x plus b, so plus 2. Questions on that one at all? Okay, your turn to try one all by yourself. So I want you to go through and look at what we did on the last slide, and I want you to attempt this one on your own. So again, in order to write the equation of a line, our answer is going to look like this, but we know that M stands for slope and B stands for y-intercept. So we have to find those things if we don't know them. We definitely don't know the slope, so we have to do the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in my things here, my coordinates. So 0 minus negative 2 over 5 minus 10. That's like 0 plus 2 over negative 5. So negative 2/5. So I know that is my slope, right? So y-intercept, guys, be careful, okay? Because some of us, multiple people, when I walked around, were thinking that this was the y-intercept. That point is to the right 5 and not up or down at all. That's the x-intercept. So that doesn't help us because B stands for the y-intercept. We have that point and then 10, negative 2. Neither one of those is on the y-axis. Like, we don't know this point. We don't know the y-intercept. So remember what we did on the other examples so far today. You're going to take this formula. You're going to fill in your slope that you just found. And then you're going to pick one of your points. Doesn't matter which one because they're both on the line, guys. So I'm going to use this one. That means where y is in this formula, I'm going to fill in negative 2. And where x is in this formula, I'm going to fill in 10. Now, one more time, guys, I want you to understand, you could have used this pair, and you could have put 0 here and 5 here. It doesn't matter which pair you pick, okay? But negative 2/5 times 10 is going to give you negative 4. And then we would have to add 4 to both sides. So you should have gotten that B was 2. So we can finish our equation here, okay? How many of you got that right on your own? Okay, listen, guys, I want to teach you how you can check your answer. This is really cool. Like, let's say this were a quiz, right? We are not done. Don't pack your stuff up. You need your calculator in front of you right now. So if you put it away already, get it back out. We're going to learn how, if this was a quiz, you could turn it into me already knowing that this was the right answer. Let's go plug the equation that we think is the answer. Let's go plug it into y equals. So y equals, let's type negative 2/5 x plus 2. And I want you to hit second graph and go look at the table. And what we want to look for in the table is we want to make sure that these 2 points are in the table. Because remember, we were trying to write the equation of the line that contains those 2 points. So if those 2 points are not in your table, you did something wrong. So let's see, we have the point 5, 0. And we have 10, negative 2. So we can be 100% sure that this answer right here is correct, okay? Last thing, we're not going to do this problem, but guys, if we did write an equation of the linear function, I still want you to take this last note with me. If we were going to write the equation of the linear function with values f of 1 equals negative 2 and f of negative 5 equals 4, what should we do first thing? Do you remember from yesterday? Hannah? Good. This means f of x, like this number in the parentheses is x, and this is the output. You just want to change it to be ordered pairs, and then guess what, guys? It would be just like all our other questions. We'd have to find the slope first, then we'd have to find the y-intercept, then we would be able to write the equation, okay? So I hope you wrote that down because it's no different than any other problems. You just remember function notation is just a fancy way to write ordered pairs, okay?